Let me see if I can do this. There's a beautiful 3-minute video. I hope you can hear it, of some lovely images of Rinpoche. So I thought just to start with that. Have you got Rinpoche on the screen there? So I hope you're able to hear this there. So I just, as a motivation, you know, the main purpose of my pilgrimage, of course, was to go to Lawudo, which we'll talk about a bit more now. But also, as we know, for many of us here joining, our kind, holy, spiritual father guru passed away in April, you know. So of course, I wanted to go to Lawudo to pay homage to where Rinpoche's previous life and this life. And it's a, you know, obviously a special place where Rinpoche meditated in his past life. So it was a spiritual journey, sort of embodying that quality, as we all did, you know, during that time, and we're still doing, you know, is, you know, commemorating Rinpoche's life, thinking about Rinpoche's life, his great holy qualities, how he benefited us individually, how he benefited the organization, you know, all of us, each one of us, so many sentient beings that we can't even conceive of, you know. There was the quality Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you know, and constantly day and night having that quality, the great quality of Bodhisattva. So I just wanted to start with, so, you know, the pilgrimage was kind of filled with that sort of blessing, that feeling, that faith and devotion from my side, and also for all of us, many people who went up there during that time. And that's really the quality of pilgrimage, is to connect, you know, with an open mind, is to connect with the great qualities, these enlightened beings, these realized beings who meditated in those places and achieved realizations. So, you know, this short video Rinpoche came out during, I think, around Lama Kappa Day a couple of months ago. And I just wanted to share some of the pictures here with Rinpoche, so we get our minds a little bit infused with, you know, Rinpoche's life and activities here, and the lovely chant that goes along with it. So I hope you can hear this, if not on Zoom. If not, please enjoy the video anyway, you know. So we'll just start with that as a kind of motivator. Okay. So I don't know how many of you've seen that already, but I thought it was really beautifully done. You know, and as I say, it came out, I think she's a musician anyway, Katie Costello. I haven't met her, but anyway, she released that around Lamazon Kappa Day. So I thought that was a kind of very sweet and moving way to start the slideshow, and just my general talk around Lawudo and doing pilgrimage. And as a nice motivator. It's always motivating seeing pictures and images and activities of holy beings, you know, what they do, what their life's like. So now I'm going to share the slideshow. So I've put a lot of images together. I hope it's not too overwhelming, but it's much more interesting looking at images of the Himalayas and holy places than me all the time. So I thought it would be nice to do a slideshow to give you a real, some sort of, you know, deeper feeling of and images of, you know, what happens when you go on a pilgrimage, especially to Lawudo. So it's Venerabina, let me just lower, take that down a bit, yeah. It says turn up volume. Do I need to do that? Is it okay on the coming out on the Zoom? It is, yeah. Okay. So actually, sorry, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says here, you know, the point is to use pilgrimage to purify our mind and collect as extensive merit as possible. By doing pilgrimage, we receive blessings from the holy places where enlightened beings, great yogis and bodhisattvas have practiced. So of course that for any pilgrimage we get engaged on, that's the purpose, you know, that's what happens when you go to these holy places. It's not just sightseeing, as my Dharma sister Venerable Sarah calls it heart seeing, or it kind of opens the heart and mind, you know, especially when you go with a kind of some faith or feeling or inspiration that the, you know, holy beings have practiced in these places, you know, and it's sort of blessed, infused with the energy of their realization and spiritual accomplishment. So as much as our mind's open, then we're able to receive a great, you know, a sort of great blessing or a transformative power in our heart and mind, you know, just by being there. So one of my friends who came with me, Jane, she was asking an older practitioner who lived in the Himalayas for many years and did a lot of meditation. They're a Westerner, Harry, you know, what practices should I do? And he said to her, well, it's good to do practices, but just being there is a great purification, you know, because it's so powerful. I used to feel that when I was, I don't know, some of my friends online, when I would arrive in India and Nepal, you feel like your mind just opens up, just getting off the plane. Because I mean, the Buddha got enlightened in India, you know, and then in Nepal, there's been so many great holy beings. So you can sort of feel it's very tangible, the spiritual energy there, you know. And of course, as Buddhist practitioners, you know, there's so many people practicing Buddhism all the time still now, you know. So all their practice and prayers just continues to hold that profound energy, you know, that supports us while we're there. So it's definitely something to do if you're, certainly if you're a Buddhist practitioner, but either way, you know, it was where I met Buddhism as well. I went there to meditate and ended up becoming a nun. So that was the sort of power of the place, just to ripen and open your mind, you know. So it's quite incredible. So anyway, this is one of the views from Lawudo, but we're going to talk about that one a little bit later. What I wanted to do was just kind of start, and most of this comes from, you know, being there and hearing stories, and also from, which I'll mention again at the end of the presentation, a book that I've enjoyed reading at least 2 or 3 times, by Jamyang Wongmo, Venerable Jamyang Wongmo. She's a senior nun. She currently lives in Nepal, and she spent many years meditating in the Himalayas. And she put together, she's a senior student at Rinpoche's for probably over 40 years. So she put a book together called The Lawudo Lama. Has anyone seen the book? Maybe online. I'm sure some of our friends here online might have seen the book. They might have read the book. Anyway, she put the book together, and it's been really helpful, you know, to get some history of the place of Lawudo. So for those of us here who don't know, you know, Lawudo is a place about 4,000 meters high in the Himalayas. So I'm going to start going through sort of how Lawudo came about. This is a statue of the Lawudo Lama, Kunsang Yeshe. who was the previous life of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So he was a great meditator, what we call a Nagpa, which means a practitioner of mantra, tantric practitioner, a lay Lama, and he actually had family. You know, he came from Nepal. He came from this place, not exactly in Lawudo, but close to Lawudo, about 2 hours away. Mainly lived there for most of his life, a place called Tami. And he lived there with his family. He was a lay practitioner. Because he was born in the sort of mid 1800s, he predominantly there, how they supported themselves up there in the Himalayas was by bartering, you know. So he would walk back and forward to Tibet at least once a month. Very, very treacherous walk, very dangerous, and, you know, extreme weather conditions, trading goods. You know, he would trade like rice and corn and come back with salt because they grew a lot of They grow a lot of potatoes in the Khumbu region of Nepal, in the Himalayas. That's what they lived off of there predominantly. It was potatoes, but you need salt, you know. So they needed salt. So what they grew here, what they had, he would barter back and forward, you know. So he had to walk, you know, long distances and trade and carry heavy loads and bring them back to support his family. So alongside being a spiritual practitioner, he also supported his 2 children and his wife, you know, in that way. And then later in his life, after receiving many commentaries and transmissions for great beings who were around at that time from his teachers, he decided that he'd received enough. He went on an extended pilgrimage again. In those times, to go on pilgrimage, you don't just pop on a flight, you know, like we do now. And even now, when we go on pilgrimage, it seems such a lot, you know. But, you know, then they had to carry all their goods. They had to walk for months. You know, I think he was away for about 1.5 years doing pilgrimage from Nepal to India, walking, carrying his food, carrying everything, you know. So he went on this extended pilgrimage. And this shows the power of pilgrimage. You know, even himself, he decided he wanted to go into a long retreat. But before engaging in that, he did extensive pilgrimage to really support the mind, you know, and give the mind a lot of blessings. So then he could go into retreat, you know, for actually most of the rest of his life. So he finished the pilgrimage, and then he decided, you know, to go into retreat. And he, you know, through some trials and tribulations, he managed to come across this cave that was carved out of a rock, underneath a rock, which I'll show you more photos of later. In Lawudo, this region that's about this small place, really in the cleft of the mountains. And it's about 2 hours from Tami, where he lived. He found this place because traditionally at that time, if you were going to engage in long meditation or retreat, you would go off and find a cave in the mountain. You know, these days we find a retreat hut, but then it was like you go and find your cave, you know. So he discovered this cave, you know, after some attempts, an attempt that didn't work at all. He found this cave and dug it out of the mountain. It was under a huge rock. And it was given the name Lawudo for various reasons. I think the names, Lawudo's, I think someone said there was radishes stored there, but it's also very close to the word for radish. And it's also close to the word for rock, you know, the words that they use for rock. So anyway, it comes from kind of radish or rock, that kind of term, Lawudo. And so he found this place, and he felt that it was sort of given to him by Guru Rinpoche, because it kind of came to him. He looked over the text, and it came to him in some sort of idea or vision that this was the place he was going to find a cave, and he had to dig it out. And there was kind of just a cave that sort of was self-created there. So he felt very much blessed by Guru Rinpoche, who was a great saint, who you know, founded Buddhism in Tibet. And he also has travelled and meditated extensively around the Himalayan region. So also when you're up there in the Himalayas, you can go to many, many places that were blessed by Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, where he meditated. And so also Lawudo Rock is blessed by, you know, he feels very blessed by Guru Rinpoche himself, you know. So anyway, he found this cave, and he dedicated himself to, you know, the last years of his life. I think he was in his early 50s when he started into retreat, and he passed away in his 80s. And for a period of 13 years, he didn't move at all from his cushion. He developed this knee problem. It was either a knee, some places I read a knee problem, some places already had a feet problem, but either way, he had trouble walking. So he dedicated the rest of his life to to meditation. And he had his daughter, who became a nun, looked after him. And so for us going to Lawudo, we kind of feel like when you go there, you feel like, wow, this is my teacher's past life. And that was the place he spent doing all these prayers to benefit us, because he spent his whole life, the last part of his life, 25, 30 years, very much in meditation. And when he passed away, he had one heart disciple, Nawan Chopel. And when he passed away, even his heart disciple didn't sort of understand what was happening, which is usually typical when holy beings pass away. They don't announce it. They have control. They don't really announce, okay, I'm going to pass now. He gave some indications, but usually we don't notice that. So we're not wanting that to happen. You don't want them to pass away. So it's the last thing in your mind. But he basically, asked if there were some certain signs in the sky. There was some signs like there was a rainbow around the moon. His heart disciple could hear the burring of an earthquake sound. And he can also hear some crying, like females crying, which were the local deities. He could hear that. And he went into the Lama's cave and said to the Lama, I can hear all, the Lama asked him and he said, yeah, I can see all these signs. And then the Lawudo Lama said, well, you, father and son, we've enjoyed so much Dharma together, And then he kind of sat in a meditation posture, meditated, then lay down the lion's position and expressed 3 as, which is the kind of most subtle expression of emptiness, the nature of mind, and passed away. Complete control, of his aggregates when they pass. And then he was in meditation for 4 days. And then on the 5th day, he came out of meditation and they did the cremation of his holy body. So just before he passed, there's another few stories, and there's a very nice short biography, as well as the Lawudo Lama. There's a short biography that was written by his close disciple, Nawan Chopel, because they used to meditate together, the last 10 to 15 years of his life. They were very close. But Nawan Chopel also said in the biography that the Lawudo Lama said, I didn't do as much service to sentient beings this life, but I made many dedications to benefit in next life. And this is, for those of us who know Lama Zopa Rinpoche, we can see what happens with those dedications, as vast as space, So going to Lawudo and connecting, for those of us who do have the opportunity to go up to Lawudo, or really any place where there's been holy beings, it's very good to read their life stories first, because then you can feel, you think about that when you're walking up there, you get inspired by that, you get infused by, their energy for practice, and what they did, what they accomplished, and how it's totally possible for us. We can do it, it's just, we have to create the karma, we have to create the cause. So, it's very wonderful being up there and being able to sit in the cave and feel that. That's what the Lawudo Lama did for us. It's very precious, So Nawan Chopel said, that's what he had said to him, and also what I also heard was, sorry, there's another hermitage about 15, 20 minutes walk, Sherog Lama, Sherog Hermitage. And there was a Sherog Lama, the previous Sherog Lama was a great sage and meditator there as well. And he and the Lawudo Lama were very close friends. So just not long before the Lawudo Lama passed, he actually privately said to Sherog Lama that he already had emanated a Yangtze, which means that his reincarnation was already reborn. So for, once our mind's really for some of us online who are already practitioners, we know this, but once we've developed our mind in a certain quality, we can have more than one body. That's the whole purpose. We can have many bodies to benefit sentient beings. So the signature of Rinpoche was that he already, because he had so much body cheetah, didn't want to have a gap. So he already, emanated a body before he passed away. So he said his Yangtze was already 3 or 4 months old. So when Rinpoche passed, his previous life was already, this life was already a young boy, already been reborn, So that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. So in a nutshell, a very brief nutshell, as I say, you can read much more about that in the book, the wonderful book by Jamyang Wangmo, Lawudo Lama. But in a nutshell, that's the life story of the Lawudo Lama. You know, so he was already coming back for us. He was already there for us, you know, when he passed away. And here we have, like, this is the kind of earliest picture I think I could find of that was taken of Rinpoche as a young boy enrolling, which is another area. It wasn't quite where Rinpoche was born, but this was I think the first images taken of Rinpoche around that age by a Westerner who visited that area when Rinpoche was there at the time. But anyway, Rinpoche was born in the place called Tami. I know it's quite difficult to have a handle on all the names, but it's about 2 hours from Lawudo, where Rinpoche was meditating. And it was also where the previous Lawudo Lama spent most of his life prior to going into meditation. And it's also one of the places we'll visit if we did if you ever come up to do a pilgrimage in Lawudo, that's one of the places you would definitely go, Rinpoche's birthplace. So it's very, very briefly again, because I want to get through the slides as well, just for Rinpoche's life, because I know some of us are familiar here, but Rinpoche was born in Tami, and his mother was actually a disciple of the Lawudo Lama, student. She had devotion to the Lawudo Lama. And so he was born there, and at a very young age, even before he could speak, because Tami is about 2 hours from Lawudo, but you can actually see Tami from Lawudo. And but there's a place in between there called Samte, I think it's called. And they had another house that they would use there at different seasons, you know, because they had to move with the seasons and the crops and the cows, and everything was very dependent on seasonal weather, you know, and the crops and the animals, taking care of the animals at that time. So anyway, Rinpoche, when they were there, Rinpoche already, when he could crawl, he started to try to crawl up to the cave. Even before he was speaking, you know, he would be trying to crawl up. His mother would go and have to try and find him, you know, because he was missing, and he was only like 1 or 2 or something. He's like, he disappeared. He's trying to crawl back up there, you know, and it's treacherous, you know, it's up kind of steep hills, but he was like determined to get up there as soon as he could walk. And then when he could talk, he was expressing that he was he was the Lawudo Lama, that he was from the cave in Lawudo, and you know, it was his place, and that's why he was trying to get back there. So eventually, you know, his mother and people around started to notice this. I think Naban Chopel eventually came, the student for past life, and some kind of tests were done. They usually test young boys who have who are kind of obvious candidates for reincarnations. They give them tests like showing objects from their past life, like ritual implements or clothes, different things. And of course, so Rinpoche around the age of 4 was given those tests and officially recognized to be the Lawudo Lama. But he was from a very poor family. His father passed when he was 2. His mother had already 3 children at that time. And she had to spend all her days in the fields, looking at, you know, collecting wood, working in the fields, then coming back and cooking. It was very, very, you can see here, it looks pretty poor, yeah? His clothing and everything, very poor, born into pretty much nothing, you know? And especially with the father passing, just the mother having to do everything. So at an age around 4, his mother, when he was recognised, she thought, well, he has to go and study somewhere, you know, he's a reincarnation. It's a bit unlike the West, where we wouldn't easily give up our kids. But because she was a very devoted, his mother couldn't read or write, but she had much devotion to the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. And she knew that, you know, her son needed to have education, the proper education as a recognised incarnation, as a tulku. So she asked her, there's a monastery in Tami. So she asked her uncle to take him up to Tami Monastery, which wasn't far from the house. It's literally just a walk uphill, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. And of course, Rinpoche, being so young and missing his mother, would run back home, escape from the monastery and run back home, because he could run quite far. So that wasn't really working. It's like he needed to be up there and he was missing his mother, so he'd run back home. I mean, it's fair enough, you know, and he could run back home. So they discussed with another uncle, and another uncle who was quite stern said he would take him to Roling. There was a monastery, a Gompa there. And that's another walk, another 3-day walk, 3 to 5 day walk from Tami. So Rinpoche wasn't easily coming back from there. So his uncle took him there and taught him how to read Tibetan and how to recite texts. And there wasn't really a curriculum there, but he learned how to read. Rinpoche said he read his first biography of Milarepa, who was a great saint, as we know, a great saint in this tradition, and it inspired Rinpoche. At that time, it really inspired him, and he just did a lot of reading and recitation and learning Tibetan at that point. And living again, this is taken in Roling, very simply. Again, the family didn't have much. My uncle and he didn't have much. So anyway, Rinpoche spent some years, about 6-7 years in Roling, and then his 2 uncles decided to go for a pilgrimage in Tibet. So this is a picture I have of Rinpoche, I found of Rinpoche being in Tibet. So this time Rinpoche still wasn't a monk when he arrived in Tibet, but he generated a great wish while he was in Tibet to become ordained. And his 2 uncles went on pilgrimage. They didn't take him because they were traveling deep into Tibet. This was around 57, 58. They didn't take him because he was still too young for to walk that far. So, am I going too fast? It's okay? Okay, good. I know he's the little one, yeah. Rinpoche was always quite small, so he's young. He's actually about 11 or 12 here because he got ordained around that time. And please, if you've got any comments, just put them in the chat online if you feel I'm going too fast. Anyway, Rinpoche, went to Tibet, and there he generated this wish to ordain. And he met with another monk who sort of decided to take care of him and manage him while his 2 uncles were away. When his 2 uncles came back for their pilgrimage, they weren't very happy because they were planning to leave Nepal and Rinpoche wanted to stay. He created a connection with this manager and also with the monasteries there. He wanted to take ordination and he wanted to stay there and study because he could see, there was monasteries that were set up there to have a proper curriculum for his study. So after a lot of deliberation and a lot of suffering on Rinpoche's part, because his uncles were quite severe with him, they beat him up and said that you can't go, but Rinpoche was determined he wanted to stay. That was the power of his determination. And so, anyway, they had to kind of get permission from the local administrator for Rinpoche to stay because he was young enough to make the decisions. He was old enough, and the administrator said he was old enough to make the decision, and he entered into a monastery there on the kind of borders of Tibet. So he engaged in that curriculum for about a year or so, and then, of course, the invasion of Tibet happened with the Chinese, the big one, and he had to flee Tibet. And with his manager, I think this is his manager here. I don't think it's his uncle, but I couldn't find exactly who it was. But anyway, this is a picture of Rinpoche. And so he had to flee Tibet. And he, and along with many other refugees, monks from Tibet, thousands of them, ended up in a place called Bugsadur in South India. When they arrived in Tibet and India, the Indians gave them, they allowed them refugee status, but what they could offer was a refugee, an ex-concentration, prison camp that was at the time of Gandhi and Nehru. When the British were holding Gandhi and Nehru, they built these prison camps, and that's what they could offer the monks. They weren't prisoners, but they, as refugees come into countries, they often have to live in minimal conditions, So many of the monks, some were sent to Darjeeling and a lot were sent to Bagsa, this place in South India. It was extremely hot and dangerous. There was like snakes, wild animals, a lot of, the water was poor, the food was poor. I mean, you can imagine India's already at that time very poor country, and then they're bringing in refugees. So you can imagine the conditions they were in. But, Rinpoche and all these monks really transformed that. There were some great, incredible holy beings that came out of those 7, 8 years where they had to stay there and bring back their studies. They studied. There was about 2,000 monks, I think, just from Sera, who lived there. And at one point, just one huge, large room where they redeveloped their study program. And did prayers and praxis together for many years to just make it the monastery they could do for that time. And eventually, I think in the late 60s, His Holiness was able to get land for them a little bit down deeper in South India, where the monasteries were re-established down there, you know, built and re-established in much better conditions. But at that time, Rinpoche spent the predominant amount of his time doing study there in Bagsa, and that's where he met Lama Yeshe, who he became one of the heart disciples, or the heart disciple of Lama Yeshe. They met there through many sort of interesting conditions, which I won't go into that now, but Rinpoche met Lama there, and then gradually, you know, after 7-8 years of being there, they went to Darjeeling, and they met their first Western student, Zina, who used to be a Russian princess, but came to America, so was mostly in America, and she was one of the first Western students. And from there, the kind of FPMT just started to flourish and develop, you know, between Lama Yeshe and Rinpoche founding the organization, finding the hotel, finding the hill in Nepal. They met Zina in Darjeeling, but then went back to Nepal. And Lama spotted this hill up from Boda, where there's the Great Holy Stupa there. And he said, this is the place I want to have for my monks, you know, for the monastery. And they were able to buy that in the early 70s. And again, I'll show some pictures of that as we go through. So yeah, they bought Kopan, and also Rinpoche was able to go back to Lawudo. When Rinpoche was first born, oh, sorry, what happened there? Oh, here. When Rinpoche, here. Oh, there we go. So you know, after they went back to Bauda, when Rinpoche was also recognised as the Lawudo Lama, the current family of the previous Lawudo Lama didn't really recognise Rinpoche as the Lawudo Lama. I mean, first of all, they were still living there; that was their home. The brother, the sister, and there was grandchildren at that time. So you know, they didn't officially give Rinpoche back, you know, his lineage, you know, his heritage at that time. But by the time Rinpoche came back to Nepal in the late 60s, the family had sort of moved out of Lawudo, and the grandson was very ready to offer the place of Lawudo, the cave. All it really was at that point was a cave and a very small kitchen area, and some of the possessions of the Lawudo Lama were there. So the family were then ready at that time to offer it back to Rinpoche. So Rinpoche and Lama, this is Rinpoche, I'm not sure if it's in Lawudo, but this is Rinpoche walking back up. Oh no, sorry, here, I missed a couple here. This is Rinpoche and Lama in the early 70s, walking back up to Lawudo to reclaim it, you know, from Kathmandu, to reclaim and for Rinpoche to receive his spiritual or lineage or heritage, you know, from his past life. So this is quite an amazing picture, because this is traditionally, you know, Rinpoche was a very ascetic Lama. So you can see they're very minimally clothed, and I'll tell you, it's freezing up there. I mean, we're all going with big hats and gloves and coats, and, you know, and they're just walking up in their Zens, you know, maybe like one warm jumper, you know, and it's very, very cold. But, you know, when you have these kind of realizations, you don't feel the cold like we do, you know. So this is just showing their sort of quality already just from that, you know. So this is just a lovely picture taken in the 70s when they first went back to Lawudo together, and, you know, got Lawudo back, you know. And here's a nice one in colour, beautiful one of the, you know, the mountains in the back were Rinpoche and Lama at that time. And of course, this one that came in the wrong order. A beautiful one. One of the things that Rinpoche used to do in his past life, and it sort of reminds me of that, you can read in the biography, is he and his close disciple Nawan Chopel, in the night time, they would just dug out these, and you can actually see them when you go up to Lawudo. I didn't find them, but Venerable Sarah and another student, Tim, found them. These earth holes, these holes in the earth, just a little bit beyond the cave, where Rinpoche would go out at night and meditate in the middle of the night. Now, there are yetis there. There's animals there, you know. But you know, they've gone beyond the senses, gone beyond fear of the body and being attacked. And also I think you pervade this kind of peace and bliss that anyway animals, they just connect with, you know, on a different level, you know. So so you can find these earth holes, you know. So in some way it sort of reminded me of that. Rinpoche's out there meditating the elements now, because I think it's still pretty cold there. You can see the snow in the background on the hills. And you know, that's something Rinpoche did in his past life. So that's one of the things you can see when you go up there, these holes, just, I mean, not even in a cave, but just literally just dug into the earth and just sitting out there in the elements meditating. So Rinpoche went back there, and then just briefly, he had been asked in his past life to build a monastery for the local people. The local people had asked, but he said in his previous life that he was too old now, so he couldn't do that, but he would do in his next life. So of course, Rinpoche comes back, and then, you know, and first, and he did think, okay, I need to, you know, I want to fulfill what I said I would do. So one of the things Rinpoche did, and we'll see a picture of that moving on, is he built a gompa, and for some years they did have monks up there studying, predominantly Himalayan monks. There was one or two Westerners because they already had a Western Sangha, but they found that, you know, to bring things up there, it's a 3-day walk, and that's at that time, even then, there wasn't many flights, so you're talking about a 3-week walk from Kathmandu to carry things up. Now it's more like a 3-day walk because you can fly up to a certain airport and walk for 3 days carrying things, but it gets very expensive. So because they had now bought the land in Kopan, they decided to move the monks down to Kopan. It was just more practical. So that's why Kopan now has like 300 or 400 monks and 300 or 400 nuns. And so, yeah, that's kind of, you know, what happened in Lawudo. And Lawudo became a retreat centre. So, I mean, as we, you know, I'm not going to go too much more into Rinpoche's life because we know already Rinpoche was this great and, you know, great holy being. There's a few images at the end I'll just show again of Rinpoche's life, but we know how much he touched our individual lives, benefited our individual lives. And even just coming to the centre and having some connection, whatever we have, means that you're being touched by Rinpoche's body chitta, you know. You're being benefited by Rinpoche's powerful body chitta, his wish to free us all from suffering and guide us to his highest potential. So Rinpoche did vast activities in his life, extensive, beyond, because he didn't sleep, he didn't take rest. It was just constant all day and night, you know, benefiting others. He needed many attendants around him because we couldn't keep up to take care and fulfill Rinpoche's wishes and activities. And so it was just unbelievable. And because I had the very good fortune to live at Rinpoche's houses for some years, it wasn't made up. I mean, it was really true. You know, it was like beyond my imagination to see how someone can just go for so many days and weeks with no sleep, no rest, no lying down, and just be there and not get moody, none of that, you know, none of that was there, you know, and no matter what was going around Rinpoche, whether it was difficult or easy, there was no change, you know, just constant body chitta, constant wish to benefit others. And so it was, yeah, very profound, you know, as again, as most of us know, you know. So this is what's so special about going up to Lawudo, is really connecting with that, the power of retreat, you know, what retreat can do, what our prayers can do, what our practices can do. Maybe we all want to get something in this life, but really, maybe if we just practice this life, what we can do in future lives, you know, can be quite amazing. So anyway, that was just a little bit nutshell of how Rinpoche got back to Lawudo this life. Any questions? Comments? Yes? Yes. So the question is, Kopan is lower in altitude. I think Kopan's around 1,600 feet, something, meters. And Lawudo's almost 4,000 meters, about 3,800 meters.
What currently is Lawudo now? Is it a destination for retreat only?
Lawudo, so, sorry, what's your name?
Lisa.
Lisa's asking what is Lawudo now. So Lawudo's predominantly a retreat centre, you know, but it's also it's a place to go pilgrimage, and you might spend a few days, you know, if you just have, because, you know, really to go there, and the minimum you need to go to Lawudo and sort of, you know, go around a few of the places here that I'm going to mention is 2 weeks, 15 days. Venerable Sarah and Venerable Gendun are both leading pilgrimages this year in March and April. And I think both of their schedules are 15 days. So that just gives you a brief sort of connecting in, you know, seeing what's there, you know, there, and 4 or 5 days in Lawudo. Anyway, as I go through it, I'll mention what we're doing here, but you would need about a 2-week round trip to do, yeah, 15 days. And then, of course, Lawudo can also be, it's a retreat centre, so you can go up there and do retreat, more extended, you know, as well. Any other questions online so far? Comments? Okay. So we're just going to move on to what Kopan Monastery itself. This is perched, this is the hill, Kopan. Sometimes it's spelled K-A for apple, P for Peter, A-N, Kapan. You'll see that when you go there. They call it Kapan, but us Indies call it Kopan. It's easier for us somehow. And it's perched on, this was bought by Rinpoche and Lama around the late 60s and the Western students. And it's grown, you know, basically just had their one small astrologer's house and maybe one other building on there when it was built. And it's just developed into a huge, even for some of us who were there a few years ago, every time I go there, there's something new, you know? And I'm like, I can't believe they're fitting more on the hill here, you know, but they still squeeze it all out. And as Rimshi says, it's a bit like the Hilton now. I mean, literally in the early days, people went to do courses in the 70s and they were sleeping on straw. Now, you know, you've got nice big comfy beds with duvets, and not all the rooms, but a lot of the rooms are very, very comfortable now, you know. So Rimshi says it's like the Hilton 5-star. But you know, there are still a few simple rooms, so it's actually very comfortable. And you know, it's people rarely don't get sick. We used to get sick a lot with the water and the food, but the you know the filtering and the cook, everything's much better now. You know, so very fortunate if you go there now. I mean, karma's karma, so we can still get sick. We still need to purify, you know, but the conditions for certain things like stomach problems and all that make it a bit less likely, you know. So this is our mother. The motherland, as one of my friends used to say, where everything comes, everything sprung, you know, the heart of our organization, Kopan, which Lama and Rinpoche started. So this year, you know, so for me personally, and I think over about 180 students, to also, Rinpoche was already scheduled to lead a Light of the Path retreat, which he'd done over a period. I think this was going to be number 5, the 5th retreat. So it was scheduled this year, and it didn't, of course, it didn't happen with Rinpoche, but of course, we decided to carry on and do the retreat. And so 180 people came, and we did, you know, 2 weeks of retreat based on Rinpoche's practices, guidance, and advice. And this is a picture of the group at the end of the retreat in what we call the Stupa Garden, which was also developed, very beautiful place at the back of the monastery or the back of the Gompa. That was, it's beautiful to just sit and walk there. You can't quite see through all the trees. I mean, I had already gathered about 64 slides, so I just thought better cut down on some of the slides because you'll get bumped, because there's going to be quite a lot coming now. But you can see there, those 2 stupas, the one at the very back, although it looks smaller, it's actually larger. It's just the way the picture's taken. That's the stupa of Geshe Lama Konchok, who passed in 2001. He was also a great, great hermit who lived up in Sum Valley for, again, and like similar to the previous Lawudo Lama, spent 25 years in retreat. Really like, for me, like Milarepa. You know, I was very fortunate to meet him, and it was like, going into his room to me was feeling like I was going into Milarepa's cave. That's what I felt like. A great, great holy being. And he passed away 2001. And then so they built a stupa to commemorate Geshe Lama and for his swift return. And also the one closer is for Geshe Lama Lundrup, the abbot of Kopan for almost over 40 years. He passed away in 2011. And then to the right of that picture here, we're going to, where the big tree, well, there's the big tree you can see in the cloud, somewhere there around that area, they're in the process of building a total victory stupa for Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, for Rinpoche's swift return, and also to commemorate his life, and for us to do pilgrimage to and purify and collect merit. So that's in the process. It's just started. It's going to take just over a year. So, you know, if there is, I'm sure there's going to be a pilgrimage in 2025. In many ways, that would be a wonderful time to go. There'll be a consecration of the stupa. It's possible they're trying to get it ready for around Rinpoche's 2nd anniversary, you know, in April. So that will also be something to go and see at that time, if anybody's interested to go. So, sorry, not that one. Just next is, so the other thing that you can see, there's many, many things to see at Kopan. I mean, it's just full, because what time are we on? We're already on 10 to 11. So I'm only on slide 10. Gosh, I better get going. So very quickly, this is the Kudun or the where Rinpoche's body is enshrined, you know, his holy body. So His Eminence Ling Rinpoche advised and suggested to His Holiness, and His Holiness agreed that Rinpoche's holy body would be enshrined and or embalmed, you know. So the process of embalming is happening in this room in Kopan, and Rinpoche's holy body is inside here. And every week they take out the holy body and put salt, because they're trying to preserve the holy body and eventually embalm it so we can go there and actually see Rinpoche's holy body. I initially thought it was going to be 2-3 years. It sounds like it's going to be 7, 8, 9 years now. It really depends how the embalming process goes. But that's just one of the places that you can see when you go to Kopan. There's also the holy relics Geshe Lama Konchok's there, the holy relics of Lama Lundrup's there, just the Gompas, there's already 3 big Gompas there. So even Kopan is just a great pilgrimage site as of itself, you know. So typically if you went on a pilgrimage, you know, just sort of walking, retracing what we would do, you know, what you would do is you would start at Kopan and spend maybe a day or 2 here and just go around Kopan and see some of these holy places, you know, do pilgrimage up around Kopan, do some practice there. And then there's a nunnery. I've got a picture of the nunnery at the very end, but there's a nunnery just about 15 minutes walk from there, where there's also around 300-400 nuns practicing and studying as well. So you would also visit the nunnery, which is exceptional these days as well. Incredible Gompa. So anyway, you start there at Kopan, and then the next, I started there with Light of the Path, and then myself, this is my friends' pilgrimage, Dharma brothers and sisters, we went up together to Lawudo. So from Kopan, or from Kathmandu, you take a small flight, takes about half an hour, and it's a very small plane, and you have to, it's a kind of a dangerous flight up there, so you have to do some mantras on your way up, and I mean, it's probably not as dangerous as it used to be, but it's definitely a bit scary when you arrive up at I mean, taking off's okay, but once you get up into the mountains, it's beautiful. But just this landing at Lukla, I don't know if you quite see there, but really where that tip is there, that's the length of the runway. It's a very small runway, and you're basically just edging into it's just cut into the mountains. So you're edging in, you know, and it does this huge big sort of 300, the plane goes and you think you're going to land, but then it does this 360-degree turn, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening here? You know, and then you just kind of boom, land right on the runway. So it's pretty intense. And you want to be doing your prayers and mantras, but then once you've landed there and you're like, then you're stopped, because you know they've not got very long to stop either. It's a short runway. Then you're like, got there, you know, big sigh of relief. And it's not just that, because also, you know, sometimes it can take days to get up there because the weather's wet, it's cloudy, you know, you're going up in the Himalayas, the weather changes minute by minute, moment by moment. I mean, I'm from Scotland, so I know that. I know that kind of weather, you know, but it's even more intense up there at those altitudes. So it's often that you have your planes delayed, but we were very fortunate and we got off the first day we arrived. So that was very good. That was lucky because we went there about the end of September, so it was nearing the end of the monsoon, but it wasn't completely over. So anyway, we got there. So you arrive in Lukla, just to walk you through what happens, what would happen if you went, or what happened when I went. We arrive there and we set off, usually try and arrive early morning so you can do a day of walking. So you arrive and, you know, you just start walking through the Khumbu Valley, you know, and the first day, each day is about 5-6 hours of walking. And even though you're going up, the first day is kind of up and down and up. It's not just you just keep going up. There's an up and down and up and down. And so some of the things that you pass by, I mean, the whole valley is just dotted with holy objects. Everything's just, you know, because of the faith of the people. I mean, Buddhism is their religion. That's just filled with prayer flags. It just gives you an idea, you know, prayer flags. These are stones that were carved out by locals or by lamas, that were commissioned by lamas, done by local practitioners. And, you know, they're often carved into many stupas, or sometimes when you're walking towards a stupa, you'll just see lines of these stones with mantras, either can be carved and painted or just painted. So wherever you go, you can circumambulate, you can prostrate, you can do, it just reminds you, you know, the whole place is just seeped with this energy, you know. You can see the stupa in the background. So you don't have to walk far before you're coming to more holy objects and stupas to circumambulate. And so it's just the whole thing's very precious. And of course, landing in Nepal's already a wow. You feel some positive spiritual energy, and then you get up to the Himalayas, and it's like whoa, with the mountains and the kind of the faith and the devotion of the people and all the holy objects. It's just another level of the mind having this support for practice, this mind awakening, this heart awakening. So, you have 5-6 hours the first day, and then we stop off somewhere in the night. And then the next day, there's a very steep walk up to the bazaar. That's the main bazaar in Sulukhumbu, Namche Bazaar. That's where most people get it's the kind of bigger bazaar there where people do sort of a bigger amount of shopping. It's 3 hours walk up from Lawudo, maybe down about 2 hours. So this is Namche Bazaar. I just thought this was a really cool picture. I think my friend Steve, I've got the credits for the photos. I didn't actually take many of these pictures. My friends did. I didn't have a good camera. So thanks to them, we get some of these wonderful pictures. But I thought this was quite a cool picture of a yak kind of showing his presence, But you'll see many yaks in Zo, the female version, as you come up and down as well. They often there's donkeys and yaks that do a lot of the heavy lifting, because once you arrive into Lukla, everything needs to be carried. There's no transport. It's by animal or human, So some of the things you find as you're going up as well, the holy objects, and as also you come across, there was this really lovely video of these yaks going across the metal bridge, but I couldn't quite get it downloaded for Facebook because the other thing, to help us cross some of these passes so we don't have to go all the way around, there's these really heavy metal bridges, which if you're scared from heights, it's a bit scary because they're quite a few 100 feet up, most of them, and you can see it all the way down the bottom, I mean, they're completely safe, but nonetheless, you're walking across these bridges that are shaking. And if you end up with a lot of people on them, they're sort of shaking and you're like, wow, look at the drop, So, yeah, that's one of the things I kind of don't enjoy about the walk up. The only thing I don't enjoy is the metal bridges. There's about 5 of them on your way up. And they're probably about, I don't know, a couple of 100 yards long. Some are longer than others, But they're so helpful because, I mean, it cuts out a huge amount of walking, and I can't imagine building them, It's incredible because they're like, some of them can carry, like, they have to be able to hold the weight of about 20 yaks, They often come in droves together, in groups together as they're carrying different things up the hill. So yeah, this is just something that you have to deal when you're going up, some of the heavy metal bridges. Some of the other things you might see going up as we walk up are the porters. So if from our side, if we go on ourselves, usually as Westerners, not everyone, I mean, one monk, Venerable Tenzin Michael, I really rejoiced. He was carrying his own backpack up the hill, up. He was going around the Himalayas and or the Khumbu Valley, carrying his own backpack, maybe 12, I think it was about 12 to 15 kg. But me, you can hire porters. Bringing myself was enough with the altitude. And even if I ended up putting too much water or because I have my own small backpack, maybe 2 or 3 kgs, but not much more than that, because it's quite a lot to already deal with the altitude yourself, the change in altitude. But these are kind of some of the porters. I mean, it's incredible. They can carry up to 100 kgs. People know what kgs is? Pounds is that in pounds, that's about 200 pounds, yeah. Kg, yeah, exactly. So it's about 200 pounds, These porters can carry up to about at least 200 pounds. Because if you don't know what kg is, yeah, that's what we're talking about, So this is well over 100 pounds they're carrying. And I mean, the walk up to Namche, so the first day going up to Lukla, it's quite reasonable. The second day, it's a very steep walk. And often up kind of stony, steppy, that kind of thing. It's not all straight. I mean, there's a clear pathway, but sometimes it's a bit rugged. And so that's very steep going up. That's the Namche Hill. It's sort of famous for being challenging, difficult. And so these porters have to carry up that amount of weight, up these hills. And even Rinpoche's sister, who you'll meet in a minute, Rinpoche's sister, mother, they were porters, they had to carry as women 40 kg £100, you know, on your back, up these steep passes. And the passes, they're a lot better than they would have been some years ago. You know, the pass much clearer as more and more tourists and trekkers come. The paths sort of open up and become more flat and are developed. So anyway, this is what you'll find. And actually, this is just a picture of a new statue that we were bringing up to Lawudo recently, you know. But generally speaking, you'll continually pass by porters coming up and down, carrying heavy loads, as well as you'll go up with porters who would carry our packs for us, you know, and it kind of just make sure we're going in the right direction. So what we would do usually, I mean, there's different ways you can approach, but we'd arrive in Namche after 2 days, and usually you would have at least a couple of days to acclimatise, because by that time we've went up well over maybe 1,500 metres up to Namche. And so one wants to have a couple of days just to feel, you know, get used to the altitude. So you spend a couple of days at the bazaar in Namche, and then we'd walk from there either up to Lawudo first, but I'm going to take us on this route. This is another about 2-3 hours. We walk to Tami. So I don't remember if you remember, but Tami was the place where the Lawudo Lama lived for many years in his previous life before going to Lawudo, and it's also the place where Rinpoche was born this life. Just going to get a little bit of water. So here you can see, what you can see here is Rinpoche's birth house. So I went there, the first time I went was 2017, and the birth house was still in its original state. And this is how it was renovated just about 2 or 3 years ago, because Rinpoche was planning, there was an invitation and there was a intention that Rinpoche was going to come back there and do some different activities in Tami. And so they had renovated the birth house so Rinpoche could stay there. And so this is it in its sort of new form, you know, here. But so to give you an idea of what Rinpoche was born in, though, this is the house inside in 2017, which I visited before the renovation. And this is a very typical sort of traditional Sherpa house. Of course, this is a little bit unkept because nobody had lived in there for some years, but this is where Rinpoche was born, and it would have been very simple at that time. There wouldn't have been much more in there apart from more pots and pans. Maybe they all slept under Rinpoche's father's sheepskin or yak skin. I think it was a yak. Anyway, a skin of the father, you know, they would all sleep in just there's only one room, you know, and everybody sleeps in there underneath the animals. There's the level underneath where the animals stay. And this is the top level where everybody, you know, they cook, they live, they sleep, everything, you know, there. So that was a very typical Sherpa, that is a typical Sherpa house. And many of the Sherpas still live like that, you know. So, but this is before the renovation. So if we go to Tami, we would visit Rinpoche's birth house, and because we can go inside now and it's kind of more comfortable, you can sit and do praxis and meditation. The other thing that's in Tami, that is a stupa here that's similar to those of us who are familiar with the stupa at Bodh It's a similar style stupa. So this came about, this was actually, well, it was built by it was rebuilt by Lama Zopa Rinpoche during the earthquake in 2017. The stupa here that was one of the most important stupas in the valley was completely destroyed by the earthquake. So the local people asked Rinpoche if they would help to rebuild the stupa. So Rinpoche offered $500,000 to rebuild the stupa. And so over a period of 2 or 3 years, the stupa was rebuilt. I think it was finished around 2021. And Rinpoche did plan to go and consecrate it, but because we were in the middle of COVID, Rinpoche couldn't fly there. So Rinpoche consecrated it from Kopan. Usually we go there and be there present, but while all the Tami monks and different monks and lamas were there, but Rinpoche didn't travel at that time because it was too dangerous. So the local monks in the region were there, and Rinpoche from Zoom did the consecration. And so this is something else you can visit in Tami. There's a few things in Tami which is wonderful you can visit now. So this is Rinpoche's birth house. This is the great stupa here that Rinpoche rebuilt for the local people. I think, sorry, keep missing it. scroll a bit better. This, and now Rinpoche's sister, who we're going to meet in a minute on the pictures. Rinpoche's sister, also in Tami, this is a prayer wheel that you can't see for the picture, but it's right next door to Rinpoche's birth house, and Rinpoche's sister built this, commissioned it and built it to commemorate her mother and her family and Rinpoche in Tami, who were born in Tami. So that's something very common and typical in that region. Why there's so many stupas and holy objects is often when family members pass away, other family members build stupas to commemorate them. Just like maybe in the West, we might put money towards a nice chair and a park bench, you know. Kind of that's what we do here, but they build holy objects, you know. So this was to commemorate her mother and Rinpoche, and to fulfill Rinpoche's wishes and to commemorate her family. And it was built right next to the family house. So this is filled with 100 trillion mantras. That's a huge amount. This is a nice picture here of Venerable Roger visiting. He visited Tami in November. That's inside the house where then you can see a picture of the prayer wheel there. So you'd probably go. We went there. We'd spend 2 nights in Tami because there's quite a few things to see. The new stupa, the prayer wheel. There's also an ancient monastery there, Tami Monastery, that Rinpoche spent a few months there, maybe up to a year. As I mentioned, when he first left his house, his mother sent him there, but he kept running away because that's in Tami. So you also visit Tami Monastery. It's a very ancient historical monastery in that area. And so it's definitely very easy and nice to spend at least 2 nights there, just going around and doing prayers and connecting with all the positive energy there. And Rinpoche's family, extended family, have just built a nice guest house there. So there's somewhere very nice to stay too, and they make delicious food. So it's all very, you know, in the same area. So it's a lovely, at least one or 2 days to spend there. Then from there, it's a 2-hour walk, and we walk up. And are we needing? Hold on, I'll just take a glass of water. No, I'm okay, thank you. Yeah. And then from there, we carry on in the footsteps of our slideshow pilgrimage at the moment. We meet in Lawudo, 2 hours from Tami. It's a quite not too difficult a walk. First of all, we meet Rinpoche's sister, you know, his precious sister. Those of you who are a wee bit more familiar with Rinpoche can see that there's a very strong family resemblance. You know, they look very similar, Rinpoche and Nawan Samden. Rinpoche has another brother, and I just realized I didn't have a picture of him here, but he's been very integral in the development of Lawudo as well. I mean, as I say, when Rinpoche received Lawudo back from the previous family, it was the cave and a very minimum. I mean, there'd already been another practitioner in the cave who had been making fires in the cave. So the cave was completely black. All the statues were completely black, and there was just one small kitchen. That's all that Lawudo was, you know. So when Rinpoche's sister got there, you know, her sister, brother, and then different monks and people for Kopan, they've all been responsible for the development of Lawudo over the last 50 years. So Rinpoche's sister's like, as it says, she's the keeper of Lawudo. She's been taking care. There's cows there. They grow potatoes. They have a vegetable garden. And she's just very warm-hearted, you know. She has a big heart. Everybody wants to connect with Annie Lawudo, Rinpoche's sister, you know. And she's just very sweet. And she usually sit around the fire at night and tell some stories of Lawudo. Of some of the hardships in the early days, you know, and some funny stories about some visitors up there. And so she's already in her early 80s. She's still persevering to milk the cows, persevering to do the garden, but she has incredible knee problems and quite bad arthritis, but she's very, very strong-willed. And she's just very special, you know. So this is Rinpoche's sister. And this is another nice picture of her here that was taken. I'm not navigating this very. Here we go. This is a lovely sis. So this is Rinpoche. She's always got her apron on because she's always working, you know. She's never not doing something. She's just a born worker. And this is Rinpoche's sister who used to, you know, she had a hard life, you know. She had to carry 50 kg, 100-pound loads, you know, for many years. Potatoes and this and that and many things up to Lawudo. She tells stories that she was there in the early days when the young monks were there. for some years, and she used to talk about never being able to get any sleep because they always needed to go up for pee-pee. Somebody always needed pee-pee in the middle of the night, you know? So she just, you can imagine, they all slept in the same room and there was always one getting up and they needed pee-pee, and some of them are only 6, 7 years old, so they need help. She's like, so difficult, you know? But she's such a beautiful character. I mean, it's really incredible. Too much. But yeah, no, incredible perseverance. She's just always working, you know? And you just see her milking the cows, and yeah, she's just very precious, you know? So anyway, this is Rimshi's sister, and so when you first walk into there, you get greeted by Rimshi's sister, and this is the Gompa. This is the meditation hall that Rimshi himself built. Rimshi was actually there when the Gompa was being built, although Rimshi was kind of there, but mostly in meditation. Many times he wasn't sort of overseeing the workers, and he talked about them just lying around sleeping a lot of the time and drinking chai, because Rimshi just wasn't the personality to come out and order people around. But anyway, it did get built and yeah, this is the great, incredible Gompa here, you know. I didn't put pictures there because I was running out of, I just thought, gosh, I'm going to have so many pictures, but there's some incredible holy objects inside there. A beautiful Guru Rinpoche statue. Yeah, because the ideal is that Lawudo will be sort of a place, it's going to be called, or they're going to have, and as an extension of Lawudo, a Guru Rinpoche Pure Land. So right now, a lot of the cabins and a lot of the rooms are very, very basic, but the idea is to develop it into being a wee bit more comfortable for us Westerners, you know, or non-Himalayans, the Singaporeans and other types who like to go and they just need it a wee bit more comfortable because it's quite basic at the moment. But this is the Gompa he's built. And Rimshi's brother told a story this time when we were up of how he, oh, sorry, I don't know where that came. He himself from Kathmandu carried some, I think not these windows, because I think some of the windows had been replaced or damaged in the earthquake, but he carried the windows up 75 kg from Kathmandu on his back. That's over 150 pounds, 3 weeks. So it's just to give you an idea, you know, everything that's brought up there, from a grain of rice to a huge window, it has to be carried, you know. And in those days, it was all the way for Kathmandu. Now it's like 3 days from Lukla, which is a big difference, you know, but still it all has to be carried, you know. So everything that we eat, everything we enjoy up there, it's a huge amount to bring up. So we're very fortunate, you know, the kindness of, I just feel the kindness of Rimshi's sister and brother to hold and take care. When I was there in 2017, there wasn't any running water, but this time I went, they had to go way back and carve and dig deep back. I think it was about quite far, 4 hours walk back somewhere into the mountains to get a water supply that's constant now to Lawudo. So you don't have to go into the local spring and collect water. So we're very fortunate there is water. It's still minimal. It's not like you have proper bathrooms and sinks and all that, but you don't have to go to the spring and collect your water anymore, you know. You can go to a tap that's relatively close to your room and get water from there, you know. So these kind of things, everything's a huge effort to get things a little bit more comfortable for us there, you know. So anyway, this is the Gompa that you'll see. We can spend time doing meditation and practice in there. This is another beautiful view looking out from the Gompa. You can see what you're looking at, you know, when you come from the other side. This was around November time. So generally after the monsoon finishes, which tends to be around mid-October now, from mid-October through to maybe early December, mid-December, it depends. You can have many days like this where it's cold in the morning and the evening, but really beautiful, clear, sunny days during the day, you know, so it's stunning. You get really clear views of the mountains. This is a beautiful picture of Rinpoche when he was there last. So Rinpoche went to Lawudo the last time was in 2015, which was interesting. He went there just before the earthquake. So most of our students feel that, and then Rinpoche was actually in Kopan when the earthquake hit Nepal. And he stayed there. Of course, he stayed there and really gave so much emotional support, you know, spiritual support for everyone who was going through that at the time. But I think most people felt like Rinpoche was in Lawudo just before there because there was a lot of damage in those local areas. So I think just Rinpoche's presence there, with no doubt, managed to kind of reduce the amount of damage that might have happened otherwise. But this is just a sweet picture of Rinpoche and Nawang Samden. So Nawang Samden's place is always, she's with always with the cows, you know, milking them. We get fresh milk in the morning and the evening. And Rinpoche, because he loved and did so much to benefit animals, also said that, you know, every day it was be good to take the cows around the Gompa. So, so every day, I think most days, the cows get circumambulated around the Gompa with all the holy objects. So this is you know, so Lawudo, it's a little bit like being on the farm as well, because you've got the cows and you've got the vegetable garden, and but you can still go off to your little house and do retreat, you know. So it's an interesting combination. This is a lovely picture of Rinpoche's sister again, and her with some of the baby cows. And this is she asked this local monk, Nawan Nendrak, who was a childhood playmate of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So he's lived up there all his life. He's similar ages with Rinpoche, and they used to play together when they were really young. So he comes regularly to Lawudo to do certain pujas and praxis for the Gompa. And Nawan Samden had asked him to do a puja for the cows. And this is typically what Rinpoche would do. I mean, I remember being at Rinpoche's house, and you know, Rinpoche would just sit down and recite a whole sutra to O Mani Padme Hum, the dog. You know, Rinpoche, that was what Rinpoche would do. You know, he was always reciting prayers and mantras and everything, spending many, many hours, long time to benefit and bless the dog. So Rinpoche's sister likewise has asked Rinpoche's childhood playmate to come and do a puja for the cows. And this is another, just in connection with Nawan Nandrik. I always find that name a little bit hard to say. He's actually holding, so the very first picture I showed you, it was a statue of the Lawudo Lama. We don't have any images, obviously, but there was that statue. And in the statue, if I just go back, just quickly, show you the second picture. You see the Lawudo Lama is wearing this kind of, it's called a lotus hat. And it's a hat that sort of mantric practitioners, Nagpas, wear. And so the Lawudo Lama used to wear that hat all the time. And actually, he very rarely changed his clothes. He very rarely bathed. He pretty much wore the same clothes all the time. And there's a sort of a nice sort of waistcoat or top also that's in at Lawudo that the Lawudo Lama used to wear. We still have that. And Nawang Nandrak is holding, he's the keeper of this precious lotus hat that came from the Lawudo Lama as well. So when we go to Tami, or it might be in Lawudo by that time, but either way, we would visit and just, you know, this is like a relic from the Lawudo Lama, you know, so we'd visit and see the hat there. He keeps it in his room, and it's usually covered away, but we opened it up here, and I think Venerable Sarah took a really nice picture of it, but it's starting to kind of decompose. So I don't know how long we'll have to preserve it in a different way. But anyway, this is another relic from, you know, the Holy Lawudo Lama. So also what you would see at Lawudo, this is Rinpoche's uncle. He's 99, and he's been a monk since probably he was very young. And he lives, I actually was in the room next door to him. He lives in just one of the rooms that we all live in, nothing special, a very simple room. And so often somebody gets in a room next door to him. And he, as you can see, he's holding his mala. He's never separated from his mala. He recites mantras all day. So I might wake up at 4 o'clock there. I might not get up because it's really cold, but you'll hear Rinpoche's uncle next door. It's reciting mantras all day. So his life is, that's what he does with his life at 99, you know, full of faith and devotion, reciting mantra. And he lives there because he was also very centrally involved for many years in building and developing Lawudo, because he was one of Rinpoche's uncles, not the one that took him, you know, to Roleng and these places, but he was mainly living in Tami. He was the younger of his family, so generally the younger son takes care of the mother. When his mother became blind, he and his mother lived in this sort of small house or hermitage, and while he was doing all his spiritual practices, 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 different things, he took care of his blind mother. And they slept And he just slept on a bench. She had a sort of simple bed, and he went through his practices like that, taking care of his mother while he did his practices. So he completed 4 amounts of 100,000 prostration, 100,000 mandala, 100,000 refuge, 100,000 vajrasattva. It's quite amazing. 4 times he did that in his life. Plus, he did extensive things to, help with Rinpoche's holy wishes, and helping the Lawudo and other things in the Tami Valley. But now he's living out, I think the last, must be the last few years of his life, but he's 99 and he still comes out from his room in the day and sits in the sun and recites mantras. And so it's quite incredible. So he's another sort of character to meet in Lawudo. Hopefully if you get there and he's still alive. So something else we can see in Lawudo is, this is the stupa of the Lawudo Lama. What time are we? I might have to start. Oh my gosh, it's 11:22. Okay, I'm going to start going through this really quickly. This is the stupa of the Lawudo Lama. It was built on the cremation, the place of the cremation where the previous Lawudo Lama was passed away, where he was cremated. So that also fell down and was quite badly destroyed, not completely, but partially destroyed during the earthquake. So it was recently renovated. So the main reason I went up there originally just to spend 10 days, but then when I got there and I realized, oh, wow, I have some time between, I was moving jobs. I was living at Rinpoche's house and then I was leaving there and moving to Vajrapani. So I decided to, I see there's a chat. Is there any question? Am I missing a question? Can you have a look, Bay, and see if there's any question? I decided, my friends they just encouraged me to stay longer because they were building a new stupa for the quick return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. They were renovating this previous stupa, the Lawudo Lama. There was also a holy tooth relic coming up of Rinpoche's tooth that was actually extracted when Rinpoche was just prior to Rinpoche manifesting passing away, but now becomes a tooth relic. So that was coming up to be based at Lawudo. And they were also building, which I'll show you, a painting, which I'll show you in a minute, this huge, incredible painting on a rock. So there was a few things going on and they were all going to happen around the holy day Labab Dubchen. So I decided to stay and be there for the sort of blessing and consecration of all these different things. It felt like a sort of auspicious thing to do. So I ended up spending 6 weeks there. So this, you can see, again, this really is on the cliff face. You don't want to go out, you can't circumambulate because you'll fall off. You can only really be on the 2 sides, maybe a little bit on the 3rd side, but not that side facing the rest of the mountains. So you can imagine it's a scary job doing these kind of works, and they always have minimal tools because everything has to be brought up. And they're hanging off the cliffs and rocks and ladders and goodness knows what, so it's incredible, the devotion, to do that. So this was Lawudo Lama Stupa. So that's something else. This is very nice. It's just on the edge of Lawudo. And it's a beautiful spot to sit and do meditation and practice there as well. So if you came there, it's definitely a beautiful place to sit there on the edge and look out over the mountains and enjoy the stupa and the energy of this, just the whole energy, that corner there, that Lawudo Lama corner stupa space. And you can also see as you walk along the stupa there, some of those earth holes that were carved out by the Lawudo Lama that he meditated in past life. So a nice, interesting story. When we were there, there was the cow. You can also see what these are, white mountain goats. And because the Lawudo Lama stupa was being done during the monsoon, they put salt on the paint to make it dry quicker. I guess that's a thing you can do. So I wouldn't know, but so what happened is the mountain goats were all coming and licking off the paint because they wanted the salt, So it was really interesting. They were all like coming along and like licking the stupa, and it's like, what's happening? And then we realized it was like they were licking the paint off the stupa. But anyway, this is another type of animal that you can come across when you're up there, is the wild goats. This is the stupa, also another view you can see for the stupa that's quite exceptional. Just to give you, again, some of the views that are available when you're up there. And so, of course, one of the last things, but not least, that you find in Lawudo and that we all go for is to be at the cave, the holy cave where the Lawudo Lama meditated. And this is just a sort of little bit of a view of the cave very close to the time when Rinpoche first went back there. You can see it's quite simple. I think it's very simple inside. Even you can see Rinpoche and Nawan Samden are dressed quite simply. I mean, again, at that time, the organization was very new and resources were very limited. So everything was very, very simple. So this is back in the 70s, you know, sort of outside view of the cave. Now, this is the outside view of the cave. It's been redone, redeveloped. So you can see this huge rock that it sits underneath. It's right under the rock. This is the outside of the cave. You can see some of the views. It's incredible views for the outside of the cave. And it's been redone on the outside, you know, rebuilt a little bit, repainted. So that's the view from the outside. This is Venerable Sarah. She was there recently. And you can sort of get a sense of the size as well when you're standing up there. So typically up there in Khumbu and in the Himalayas, you know, the Sherpas, they generally have the height. The doors are really small, and part of that is so that Yetis can't get in. It's to scare off spirits and Yetis and things like that. I mean, Sherpa people are small anyway, but there's also this thing about making the doors small so the Yetis can't get in the house. I mean, it's rare to see a Yeti, but there have been occurrences of seeing Yetis, you know, and coming across Yetis. There's a story in the Lawudo Lama of one Sherpa who was attacked by a Yeti. So yeah, it's quite small when you go in. I mean, for us people who are small, it's no problem, but usually you have to kind of go under a little bit. And then once you get into the cave, this is kind of what you can expect to see. And this is pretty much the size of the room. You know, this is taken from the door. You can see the rock there on the top. So it's built into the rock. This is Rinpoche's holy seat that he would sit in there. And then we can also, there's about six, seven, eight of us who could, maybe 6 people can fit comfortably, maybe 8 at a squeeze. And up there you have the statues of the previous Lawudo Lama, Guru Rinpoche and these 2 wisdom mothers. And then this stupa there is the stupa that holds the relics of the previous Lawudo Lama. And there's also a statue of the Lawudo Lama a little bit further along, but you saw a picture of that earlier. So this is the kind of view you would expect to see for the cave. And this is another view here, just from a slightly different angle of us meditating on the side. So you see the windows on the side. But so it's, as I say, I mean, for those of us who are students who have a connection with Rinpoche, there's nothing really more precious than going up there and being in the cave, you know, connecting with Rinpoche this life. Because Rinpoche did, not so much in the later years, but in the earlier years when Lawudo was given back to Rinpoche, and of course Rinpoche, the organisation wasn't as big, Rinpoche spent many years up there, not years, but, you know, he went up there many times to do retreats. And there's one book called Opening the Door of Dharma, where Rinpoche talks about his initial experiences of meditation in the cave and how he was, you know, how all this joy came when he started reading some of the previous texts of the Lawudo Lama, and how he really understood what Dharma is when he read those texts. It's called Opening the Door of Dharma. He only then really understood how to practice Dharma when he read that text. And he was said by reading that, he was able to have, you know, no obstacles in his retreats or meditation practice. And he really understood what Dharma practice means. So that's an incredible book, The Door to Satisfaction, which is Rinpoche's kind of commentary or discussion and talks, teachings around that book that he found up there. So it's very, very precious to go up there and be able to sit and meditate in the cave and have a little bit of time and connect with the sort of prayers and motivations and the practice of the previous Lawudo Lama streaming all the way through to this life. Very, very special. Nothing, I think for us students of Rinpoche, nothing really more special than that. I mean, there is, but it's very precious. So I really hope many of us here online can get the opportunity to go. And also to be able to meet Rinpoche's sister, who looks like Rinpoche, you know, and also Rinpoche's brother. But he doesn't live up there all the time. So if you go there, you're more likely, you would meet his sister. But it's very precious to be able to meet her as well, because she looks like Rinpoche. She has great deep faith and conviction in Rinpoche, and she's also done so much just already to fulfill the wishes of Rinpoche after he's manifested passing away. This is a lovely picture of Rinpoche himself in the cave, just I think this was taken the last time Rinpoche was there. So, of course, I never had the opportunity to be there when Rinpoche was there, but of course, omniscient mind's always everywhere. So Rinpoche's always there with us when we're there, but I didn't have the chance to go there. There's a beautiful video, a half-hour video of Rinpoche in the cave talking about the life story of the previous Lawudo Lama, and you can find that on YouTube. I think if you just put in Lawudo Lama life story Lama Zopa, it comes up, you know, and it's half an hour, and Rinpoche just going over the previous life of the Lawudo Lama. So we didn't have time for that in this presentation, but that's something you can watch anyway. And just to so another thing, and you know, there's so many things you can see, you know, but just to kind of fill in the main points. This is the Holy Tooth relic that Venerable Roger brought up a couple of days before we had the cremation, not the cremation, the consecration of Rinpoche's Victory Stupa and the other holy objects up there. So that's encased in here. It's actually, you can see it through the glass there, but unfortunately, this is the best picture I could find. It's not in there, but you can, the Holy Tooth relic is in there. You just can't quite see it in this picture. And I think Rinpoche's sister's going to build a sort of a more of a shrine for the tooth relic to be in with the stupa. So if you go up there, that's also really one of the main relics that we can see Rinpoche, because the holy body's still in the embalming process. So this is a relic from the holy body. That's probably the only other relic we have of the holy body that's available to see right now. So again, that's another incredible reason just to go up to Lawudo and see that. So the another thing, you know, something else that was going on is again the building of the Victory Stupa for Rinpoche's swift return. That again, Rinpoche's sister very quickly decided to commission that. She got some divinations done and advice from other holy lamas, but from her side, it was her wish. She wanted to build this stupa for Rinpoche. So again, that's filled with, you know, some past possessions of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, with mantras, with satsas, with different articles that need to go in a stupa to make it very powerful. And it also, you know, it's more of a tradition. This stupa is from the vision of a great Nyingma Lama, Trulshig Rinpoche, that style. So it's more in the style of the Sherpa Khumbu Valley, the type of stupas they build. And that was also built during the monsoon. And it's, again, they had to carve into the rock. It's not just like, oh, there's a nice flat space, we'll just build there. No, it wasn't a big flat space. They had to carve into the rock and make a flat space to build the stupa. And then, of course, it was built during the monsoon. So they were building in rain and a lot of hardship, you know, but they got it built in time. I think it took about 3 months, flat work. And so, again, you can see the views. So this is located just before we would arrive up into Lawudo. We would pass the Victory Stupa. It's about 5-minute walk down from Lawudo. So that's something, but you can also circumambulate this one. It's built on the edge, but there's enough of a path where you can easily walk around. So it's also something very precious to go and see. And last but not least, oh, sorry, here's just one picture of, a couple of pictures here of the day, the consecration, where we consecrate the monks from Tami. You can see some of them here and some more in the next picture. And this is Venerable Roger, and on the left side there, Venerable Roger and his sister and brother, all sitting there just prior to doing the consecration ceremony. And you just see the views are incredible, aren't they, from the stupa there. Prior to the consecration, just sitting and sort of offering tea and doing some sort of formalities, you know, tea offering. That's always important in Sherpa culture. You always get tea, loads of tea. It's always nice. You get tea and lots of food, you know, lots of potatoes predominantly, and very deliciously made. So this is just before the ceremony, and this is during the ceremony, doing the consecration here. So I was here somewhere off on the right side, but that's not so important. But yeah, so all the monks from Tami Monastery doing the special consecration ceremony. And then after that, they went up to consecrate the Lawudo Lama Stupa that was rebuilt after the earthquake. And then finally, another great project that was completed was this, I mean, just to get an idea, and some of you have seen this online, you know, so this cliff, Drak Karma, the White Cliff, it's located about 40 minutes up walking from Lawudo. So again, all the scaffolding to paint this had to be carried all up from wherever. Just from Lawudo alone, it looked a lot, but already been carried up. And again, it's all very sort of minimally put together, and this cliff's huge, so you get an idea of how deep, how far down the valley is. And there's another picture of the, and they're only on a sort of wooden bench there. And that's the ladder going up. I mean, it's all very scary, it was scary enough just looking, never going up there. So these three artists, so this is a rock that, yeah, as I say, it's located about 40 minutes up from Lawudo. And, from there you get incredible views of the, vast views of the valley. And Rinpoche wanted it painted there because then people walking up could all see it from hundreds of, miles and miles away. And this is a Moga Pasha. I don't know, do we have one here? No, maybe you I think, did you have one at the front, I think, of, this is a special deity that through just by seeing, it has so much benefits to your mind, So Rinpoche wants these displayed in all the centres, and again, as also displayed here, so that just by seeing it purifies so many eons of negative karma, you no longer get reborn in the lower realms. It has all these like stream of benefits to our mind, So, yeah, this is the artist probably on about day 2 or 3, and those 3 artists, I asked them later, they've never done anything like that before. They just paint tankas. So, I mean, it's not like they on a daily basis go up like 40 feet of scaffolding and that's what they're doing every day. I mean, they were already like, it was intense for them, but because of their devotion. And of course, I'm sure they got made some offerings and they got paid for it, but still, it's massive, So it's all, it's mostly because of the devotion of the people that they do these things. And somehow through the power of the place, they get protection, I mean, there was no accidents, nobody fell, everybody was fine. They brought tea up for them so they could drink tea up there and, everything. But I mean, I looked at it and they're just on these planks rested on the scaffolding. So Venerable Roger, when he arrived and it was finished, it was completed. Here's another image of them nearly complete. I mean, it's absolutely stunning as well. And that's another image from it far away. And again, you just get the vastness and the height of the valley, So when it was almost complete, Venerable Roger arrived, and he's already, I mean, he's in his 70s, but he walked up, and then he went on the plank and offered them katas and offerings. He said, I have to go up there because they've put so much effort. So on behalf of Rinpoche, I need to thank them. So he went on the planks himself up on the scaffolding. And we were all like, whoa, I was like really rejoicing because, I mean, of course, if you're really okay with heights, I guess it's fine. But even then, it's frightening, So this was the other project. Rinpoche had wanted this completed for many, many years, a painting of, initially it was Chenrizig, but then Rinpoche further checked and some years later decided it would be, he wanted an image of Moga Pasha. So in many ways it came at the right time. And so this was also consecrated on the special day of Lababdukchen. That's what I stayed there for the consecration of this, the consecration of the Lawudo Lama Stupa, and also the one of Rinpoche's Victory Stupa that was for Rinpoche's 5th return. So this is, again, just giving you a sort of feeling, an idea of the many holy objects and just the sacredness of this place and what can be seen and what we can, so much merit we can accumulate by going to this place and doing practices there, what there is to do. So just to finish off, this is just a few little slides of now this is a Sherpa kitchen. This is Lawudo kitchen. And this is where you'll always find Anila, not always, but certainly during meal times, Anila. She used to cook in the kitchen for many years. And I mean, my friend Venerable Amy, she's been going to Lawudo for years, and she said it just used to be black, the fire and everything. It was very simple, but now it's a wee bit more, I think it's a wee bit more advanced. It's still simple, but and they have some sort of stove gas stove on the side that helps. But they always have to make a fire to cook, and so it's a lot of work, in these kitchens. So Anila used to cook all the time, but for some years, this is Zangmo. She's in there about 12 hours a day cooking for retreaters, and especially in their higher season. I mean, in winter time, it's just the basic staff that are there. Most people don't go up in the winter, but during the months of like March, April, May, June, even over monsoon, there might be a few people. And then again, October, November are the busy seasons. So really the best times to go are like April, May, June. In terms also trying to get flights up there. If you go during monsoon or heavy winter times, it's going to be you're going to spend a long time trying to get flights to Lukla. Or the other time to go is kind of October, November time. That's when the flights up to Lukla are more available. And of course, the climate's it's easier up there as well. So this is the Sherpa kitchen. This is the dining room, where if we go, we all sit and eat dinner there together. And you can see we're all enjoying the traditional momos there on the plate. This monk on the left side, he's the Geshe-la. He's the director of Lawudo at the moment. So he came up for the special. He doesn't live there all the time, but he goes up on a kind of regular basis, I think, for certainly when there's projects happening. And he was coming up there for the consecration that time. So he's the director at the moment.
There was a question for the name of the Buddha in the painting.
Amoga Pasha. Amoga Pasha. And if you're at a centre, generally we should see that Buddha displayed. We're in the process of getting it displayed at Vajrapani. But Rinpoche's wish was to have it displayed in all the centres because just by seeing it has incredible benefits. We don't have to do anything, we just have to look. That's an easy meditation. Yeah, it's a very important one. So so we don't have to go all the way to Lawudo to Drakkarma to see that. It's good to go there and see it, but it's also available in FPMT to download. So where are we now? Any other questions? Was that it? That's it now. So that's that's a nice dining room that we all congregate in, and usually they make the fire at night. There's the stove, so everybody congregates around the stove because it tends to cool down at night time. So we get a bit of heat at night time just before we go off to our own rooms. And then I'm just sharing here some nice, again, these are just from around Lawudo, some of the views that you can expect and enjoy, you know, it's just, again, it's just surrounded by mountains, you know, so it's incredible. It's so good for the mind, you know, it's so conducive for meditation. It's just beautiful, you know, just a little bit hardship. The rooms are simple. It's cold in the morning, the evening, but in terms of practice and meditation, it's incredible. This is some of the retreat rooms that you might stay in, or even if you just visit for a few days, it's some of the rooms that you might stay in. This is another view from there's a set of retreat rooms that are slightly down, and these are the ones that are up a little bit. So I was staying in one of the rooms up here. So this is the view that I had from our room. And these are some, thanks to, again, Venerable Tenzin Michael and Venerable Sarah. These are just some of the views that you can expect to enjoy as well. Sky views from Lawudo as it changes, the clouds form and change and transform. And so it's very beautiful, you know, just watching the sky alone and all the different things that happen there, you know, it's incredible. So just sharing some of the, you know, some more of the views. This is the view, this is Mende. This is this about a half-hour walk from Lawudo. So you can actually fly up by helicopter. Venerable Roger, when he came the last time, because he was short on time, he flew from Kathmandu to Lukla, and then you can commission a helicopter from Lukla to here, or Lukla to Namche, the bazaar that's a slightly down, 2-3 hours. It's quite a bit more expensive, and you need to be careful with altitude sickness, because it means if you fly up too quickly, you can have altitude. So it really depends, but it's definitely helpful if you get sick and you need to be flown down. One of my friends got really sick in Namche, so she had to get flown back down to Kathmandu to the hospital. So it's definitely something, it's good to have that as a backup, but they are quite a bit more expensive. But it's a lot of fun as well. The first time I went, I flew back from Lukla to Kathmandu in a helicopter, because sometimes the helicopters can go when the flights can't. So it was really exhilarating because you can see everything in the helicopter. At first I was like, wow. But then when you sort of get used to the height, it's just like, wow, this is incredible. So it's an incredible experience just to be kind of surrounded by the Himalayas, you know, right in the middle of it. This is, so just a few more of the views that just, this is a sunset view, how the mountains, get kind of coloured and shaped and everything by the sun setting. It's just, so it's kind of spectacular, very spectacular. This is actually not from Lawudo. This is another cave that just briefly I went to visit at the end of my trip to Lawudo. It would be about a 2 or 3 day, for us Westerners, a good 2 day trip to get there, Drak Karma. But it's a cave of Guru Rinpoche where you can see the handprint. But again, it's just giving you some of the views of the valley that you know that wherever you are, you can experience. Another one there, another one here. Looks like a fish there almost in the sky, yeah? Some here. So I knew we'd get through the rest of these flights pretty quickly. So we're good. We're doing quite well on time, yeah? And then just to finish, as I mentioned, this is like when you get back or when you're there, another thing we would do if we go is to visit. This is a Kopan Nunnery, and I found this online because this was a day when they were experiencing a nice double rainbow across the over and top the nunnery. Very auspicious. So again, the nunnery was built from scratch as well, and it took many years to develop it to this level. But this new Gompa was built maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And it's absolutely stunning inside. So just to go in and see the artwork and everything would be another pilgrimage spot while you're at Kopan. And then just to share a little bit, you know, some of the things, precious things, you know, just to remind us of Rinpoche, how Rinpoche kind of loved cuddly toys. You know, one of the things in Rinpoche's activities was writing cuddly toys, writing Dharma words on cuddly toys, on plushy toys. You know, so just to finish with that, you know, a little bit, because it's all, again, this is all stemming from Rinpoche in his life and his holy activities and how he affected and touched us, you know. So one way Rinpoche enjoyed to share Dharma with the students was giving them toys with Dharma instructions or Dharma sayings or, you know, or Dharma purpose, you know. It's like a koan almost in the Zen tradition, but you get a toy for Rinpoche where this is what you need to do, you know. Or something, you know, like some kind of saying or Dharma. So Rinpoche loved to write cuddly toys, write on cuddly toys, Dharma things and give them out. So this is Rinpoche Kopan giving out toys to all the monks with some a Dharma saying on them. Another thing Rinpoche used to love to do, did extensively, was benefit animals. And so this is actually a picture of Rinpoche with a goat in Maratika. It's another holy place in Nepal. And Rinpoche and Kardala are there, and at that time Rinpoche's just blessing the goat. But what Rinpoche did extensively in Nepal as well was liberate goats. So the other thing that they have at Kopan is an animal sanctuary, and that's another place to visit where Rinpoche liberated so many goats from being killed, you know. But often when he was coming from Boda, you drive up about 20 minutes, half an hour drive up to Kopan. Rinpoche would pass butcher shops and liberate the goats. He couldn't bear that they were going to be killed, you know, so he would pay for the goats and maybe the next day goat that they were going to do as well. So they have, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 animals up in the animal sanctuary that they take care of, and they have stupa there and they circumambulate the animals on a regular basis, feed them, take care of them. And so again, that was another, you know, Rinpoche, vision of Rinpoche was liberating animals from the dangers of death. And one monk in Singapore, Venerable Drachom, was literally liberated millions of fish, you know, from being fished and farmed. And that was another vast project to Rinpoche's, was liberating different types of animals. We used to do on a regular basis at Rinpoche's house in Aptos, liberating worms. We would do weekly about 1,000 worms from the kind of hunting shops around here. So, but again, many of us here who have joined are very familiar. It wasn't really the purpose to talk extensively around Rinpoche because we know, you know, who Rinpoche, you know, well, at least we know a part of who Rinpoche was. I mean, who Rinpoche was vast and extensive and vast, incredible, but what we know already is mind-blowing, you know. So yeah, just to finish, this is kind of just a synopsis of Rinpoche from Lawudo Lama to Yangtze. Very simple, very humble beginnings to becoming a great, great holy master, you know, benefiting this world like the sky. Incredible. So again, my thanks to Venerable Sarah, Venerable Tenzin, Steve Nadeau, and probably others, but they were the main ones that helped me to gather these pictures. for the slideshow. And also to Jamyang Wongmo here, this is the book, The Lawudo Lama. If you're interested to purchase that, I really recommend it, especially if you're going to go to Lawudo. There's also a lot about the history of the Khumbu Valley in the beginning, and just about the locals and their traditions and their religions. And mostly it's Buddhism, but there are other smaller religions practice, other religions and practices that they do there. So it gives you a history of the place. I think for me, I remember I read it one time before I went, and a lot of it, like the names are really hard to get a handle on, It's a different language, So I was like Tami and Sulukumbu and Kumbu and Kunji, and it was like I couldn't get it all. But then when I went there, it was like, oh, it's like that. You go there and it's like, oh, this is this and this is that. So in some way, it's really wonderful if you go there to take the book with you and read it as you go along. And it's like, oh, this is this and that's that. And then you really get this kind of deep feeling. So I read it when I was up there this time again, and it's just like, oh, yeah, these are all just getting a deeper feeling of everything, this whole lineage of Rinpoche's lives, Yes?
Bon religion. The Bon religion.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think in Nepal, no, I don't think so, no. They have their own version of Buddha, another version of Buddhism that they practice, but it's not called the Bon tradition, yeah. Any other questions? Any online? Am I seeing any on the chat? Comments? What was the, okay, we got that one. Oh, can we have part 2? I think I managed to fit it all in. I mean, there is a lot more. I'm just curious, just as we finish, who's interested to go on pilgrimage then? From here? Definitely.
Ange, do you mind ending the slideshow so that we can see you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Okay, stop share. Okay, hi. Maybe you can just put a yes in the chat, or you can just say, speak. I know Steph is. Erin?
Yes, very much.
Yes. Anyone else? Who else have we got? Who else is here? I can only see a few. Urs, no Urs. Does it feel overwhelming? Han, I'm sure you might be interested to go. Yes, yeah. Anyway, don't get overwhelmed by it, because it is, there's things you can do also to prepare, just get a wee bit fit. And there's also different types of things you can take for altitude sickness. There's Western medication. There's also Tibetan medication you can take, Tibetan medicine that's kind of, people might feel more comfortable with because it's more natural. So there's different things you can do as well. And I mean, the hike up is just stunning. The whole thing's just incredible. So I pray anyway, at least as many people as possible, especially students of Rinpoche, people who feel connection with Rinpoche, get the opportunity to go. As I said, it's a completely, yes, from Nadine. It's a completely transformative process. Yeah?
And sorry to interrupt you. I think Gina had a hand up as well, yeah?
Okay, good. Yeah. I can't see everyone the way I have it set up. Oh, yeah, I can see here.
Do you want to put your hand up again, Gina? And you can see you, yeah?
Great. Well, I think for sure there's going to be an opportunity to go in 2025. There's already an opportunity this year in 2024 and 25. And but I'm sure there'll be 2024, there's already 2 opportunities, March, April, but I'm very sure there's going to be an opportunity in 2025 as well. I'm sure there's going to be one every year, so just keep your eyes and ears open if you're interested, and your heart's open, of course, as well, always.
Go ahead and unmute, Gina, if you have a question.
Someone has a question? Gina, do you have a question? No.
What is
No.
What is sort of cost?
Well, the one, I think, first of all, you need your flight to Nepal. And then I think just to go to do a sort of 15-day round trek, the one at Kopan at the moment, without doing there's some that do, and they do there's one of them that's going this time as a fundraiser for Lawudo, But if you weren't doing the one on the fundraiser, obviously it's more expensive. But if you did one that wasn't a fundraiser and just for your basic costs, from around 15-day round trip from Kathmandu, including your flights to Lukla and porters and accommodation, room, would be around $1,200 to $1,300 on top of your flight to Nepal. That's about the cheapest you could do it, around $1,100-$1,200. Could maybe do it slightly cheaper, but then if you're carrying your own luggage, you could do it cheaper. If you're carrying your own things. You don't want to go too simple because you might get sick, so you want to make sure you go to places where you're going to eat and things where you don't get sick. So I would say around 11, 12, 1,300.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining, and hope you can come. Hope you can go. So we'll just do a short, just let's do 2 dedications. So I'm going to chant in Tibetan, but the first one is the dedication of, maybe develop our mind in bodhicitta and whatever's developed, not arisen, arise and grow. And the second one is to become, quickly become a Buddha, develop our Buddha potential so we can awaken the Buddha potential for all living beings. And then if those who want to join, I just wanted to recite also the swift return prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which I'll put up on the screen after the 2 dedications. Ogevadi nyududak Lama Sangye Drugyurne Drowa Jigyamalupa Deye Sala Gopar Shojanju Senjo Rinpoche Mage Panam Gyurshik Yewa Nyamba Mebaye Gone Gondu Pelwar Sho. And let me see if I can find Rinpoche's swift return. So we'll just do the one by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children, the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas, victorious Losam, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armour of patience that is never discouraged, incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings you suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels, and the great ways of bodhicitta, the children, the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, bye. Bye, bye.
Thanks so
you
much,
so
Anne.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Steph. Bye, Urs. Sacha. Bye.
Bye.
Erin. Regina. Khan. Nice to see you, Marion. Okay. Thank you.